there, welcome. This is the Kelly's Astrology podcast, where you can find insight, guidance, and understanding through astrology. I'm Kelly, and I'll be your host. Hey there, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Kelly's Astrology podcast. This week, we are in between the eclipses, so I want to talk a little bit about that. We also have 3 planets that are going to change signs. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what that means. I'll give you a few specifics about each planet and the sign they're moving into, but we'll also touch on what that just means in general. That means you're going to be hearing about the sun moving into Libra and the equinox. You're also going to hear about Venus moving into Scorpio and Mercury also moving into Libra. And just to make sure we're all on the same page, I'm looking at the week starting Saturday, September 21st. So we are in that weird period of time in between the eclipses. I sometimes think of this as the eclipse tunnel kind of time of the year. And during this period, time really does feel different. You might be more sensitive. You might be more open to energetic or intuitive impressions. You might be more affected by things. You might be processing more or find that your capacity is less. And maybe you need extra rest or quiet time. Sometimes there's an intense feeling when we're in this 2-week eclipse tunnel in between eclipses where everything just feels that much more charged or urgent or even potent. I would really invite you to go gently with yourself and with those around you. It's really common for everyone to feel a little tender, a little unsettled, maybe a little stretched thin during this weird eclipse tunnel window of time. There are only 2 of these 2-week windows of time each year, typically. Sometimes there's more, but in most calendar years, we just have 2 of these 2-week eclipse tunnel windows of time. So if you just generally feel that things are a little different, a little out of the ordinary, a little more charged or electric than usual, that's why, because we're in this between eclipses period. In this eclipse tunnel between eclipses kind of time, there's this sort of shadowy swirling energy as if you're sort of sensing things but not seeing things. And it can be really hard to figure out what's real, what's a fantasy, and what's a real worry that is just kind of, consuming you. Attuning to your subtle senses can help, as logic or rational thinking might not be the most helpful now. So staying in touch with your feelings or your body awareness, or just giving yourself space if you have to make a decision or process things. On another note, if you're new to astrology and want to learn the basics, my Practical Astrology Beginner course is happening right now. I'll include the direct link to sign up in the show notes below, or you can pop over to kellysastrology.com and search for Practical Beginner Astrology. I hope to see you in class. So let's turn our attention to the planetary movements this week. First up, the sun will move into Libra. We're looking at Sunday, the 22nd of September, and the sun will move into Libra on most locations on that day. So the sun coming into Libra does mark the equinox. And that means that from a seasonal or a nature-based perspective, we're definitely transitioning out of the bright, long days of summer or coming out of the dark days of winter if you're in the southern hemisphere. Around the time of the equinox, around the 22nd of September, the day and night length can become more equal, as if to kind of remind us all to strive for balance and moderation. So if you have a think about where in your life things have become out of whack or out of balance, or you're extremely heavy over here and you're underweight over here, this equinox is a chance to recalibrate. Of course, this idea of the day and night length being equal doesn't last for long. Certainly in the Northern Hemisphere, we can now expect increasingly shorter days and longer, cooler nights. So let this guide you in terms of adjusting your schedule or your plans, maybe making some changes to food and movement rituals, really to honor the fact that around you, nature herself is shifting. To paraphrase Mary Oliver, the soft animal of your body might need something different in this upcoming season than it did in the last. We move so quickly in modern life that taking a moment just to acknowledge that something like the equinox is happening and that it means a transition, that day and night are changing their relationship going forward. And the way we participate in daytime rituals versus nighttime rituals might want to shift as well. So, anytime the sun moves into a cardinal sign, Libra is one of our 4 cardinal signs, we do get one of these 4 important solar turning points each year. So, when the sun moves into Aries or Libra, we have the equinox. When the sun moves into Cancer or Capricorn, we have the solstices. And what that tells us is that a new 3-month cycle or season is beginning now. So, the season that you've just come out of, summer if you're in the northern hemisphere, winter in the southern hemisphere, that's ending. We want to really mark that we went into that season as fully as we could, and now it's time to leave that behind. Instead, we're turning our attention to autumn if you're in the northern hemisphere, where it's colloquially known as the fall, but I'm always just used to calling it autumn, and spring for my friends and family, clients and students in Australia, and those of you who are listening in the southern hemisphere, it is springtime for you. And so, just to take that moment, a new season is beginning, a shift, temperatures changing, the relationship between light and dark is changing. Your body rhythms are going to be shifting as well, and making some adjustments to your own daily, weekly rituals is going to be a really conscious way of attuning to the natural cycles around you. So, adjust accordingly. If you are heading into spring, it's time to expand, to kind of move outwards, to connect with increasing amounts of people, and maybe to do more physical activity. If you're heading into autumn, you might be thinking about pulling back or adjusting and consolidating. You might be turning within or wanting to get home earlier at the end of the day. Maybe you're even thinking about reducing activity. Autumn is associated with the harvest. And in fact, in a garden or in a farming agricultural environment, this is a hugely busy season of the year. So maybe you are in that busy harvest autumn time as well, where actually you need to be more productive, more organized, more focused so that you can get things done before we head into the resting season of winter. So just to keep these seasonal associations in mind, I know you might be thinking, how is this astrology? But you've got to remember that the origins of astrology are visual, they are connected to nature and to land-based cycles. And so taking time to mark the equinox or the solstice is an important way of keeping time with the time of nature. You might even find it helpful to think about this season or cycle, starting September 22nd and running through to around the 21st of December. That'll be approximately when our Capricorn solstice arrives. And so from late September to late December, we are in a particular chapter or chunk of time. Maybe that thinking about this as a 3-month period or season will help you clarify what is important for you to focus on in this season or this cycle of time. Now, if we do switch back a little bit to the more explicit astrological focus, the sun coming into Libra does mean that adjustment, compromise, balance, and negotiation are highlighted. Libra is one of our air signs, and all of the air signs connect to the human experience. So our social connections, our relational interactions, our ability to use our intellect and our logical function. So we are wanting to kind of really embrace, all that it means to be human. That kind of human, logical, intellectual, really using our mind for its higher purpose. It is an air placement, and so that idea of communication, interaction, learning, and socializing might be more important than some of the productive, analytical, and organizing themes of the sun in Virgo. Now, this year, the sun in Libra will be influenced by the South Node, who is also in Libra. This also happened in 2023, but after this year, it won't happen again for another 18 years. So, Libra season 2023 and Libra season 2024 are a little bit unique because the South Node is also in Libra as the sun comes through. It's part of why we've been having these very intense eclipses in Libra. Now, the sun south node energy will come to a peak around the eclipse, the solar eclipse on October 2nd. But even outside of that solar eclipse date, the whole time that the sun is in Libra, that south node energy is just emanating a little more strongly. And that south node energy is about endings. It's about release. It's about letting go. It is about purging and purifying and detoxing things out of your life. It is about the passages that remove waste out of our lives, out of our bodies, out of our energetic systems. And so Sun in Libra, because of this co-presence with the South Node, is going to be a great time to declutter, to simplify, and to kind of detox not just of physical things, but of mental things. So mindsets that you know don't work for you, attitudes or habits or beliefs or behaviors that you've outgrown or that are no longer serving you. So we're really wanting to shift our thinking and shift our behaviors when we're interacting with other people. That's a huge part of Libra season 2024. So these themes of change and of churning and of figuring out what to end or stop will form an important part of the next few weeks as the sun moves through Libra. Now, shortly after the sun moves into Libra and we have the equinox on September 22nd, Venus is also going to change signs. So later in the day on the 22nd, or perhaps it's on the 23rd, depending on where you are, Venus will move into Scorpio. So Venus in Scorpio is emotional and reflective and intense and really deep. Technically, Venus in Scorpio is in detriment. So the sign change of Venus from Libra into Scorpio, it's a big dignity shift. Venus has gone from being well-resourced and pretty stable and consistent while she was in Libra. Now she's moving into Scorpio, where she's going to be less well-resourced. She's not always going to have at hand the tools or things that she needs. So Venus in Scorpio can be very good at making the best of what we have on hand, making do with what is available. Venus in Scorpio will have some fluctuating qualities to her because of that inconsistent tone of a planet in detriment. So what that means is that you might find while Venus is in Scorpio that you're surfacing hidden feelings or desires or kind of secret motivations, things that you didn't even know about yourself, things that you didn't know about what was important to you. You might get into matters of trust and loyalty, or even explore where your true allegiances lie. So Venus in Scorpio is asking some pretty deep, pretty confronting questions about how we bond, who we feel safe enough to trust, and whether we need to keep some distance around certain people or situations just from like a protective element. Of course, Venus in Scorpio, it is a water sign placement for Venus. And so figuring out feelings within the context of relationship might become more important. You know, when this person does this thing, how do I feel about that? Not what story do I tell myself, but is there an emotion or a sensation in my body that comes up? How do I feel after spending time with that friend or that family member or that coworker? Are there people that when I'm with them, I really feel charged and strong and powerful or motivated? And are there people that after spending time with, I feel a little bit mucky or out of sorts or disconnected from myself? This is the magic and the power of a planet in Scorpio, is that if you're open to feeling that range of feelings, from kind of good, solid feelings to uncomfortable, messy feelings, you will get some very important clues about who is somebody that you really feel safe with at like that soul or unconscious level, and who is someone that things just feel off with for you. You may not be able to language it. You may not be able to put it into words. This is Venus in Scorpio. She's the queen of feelings, not necessarily the queen of language. And in fact, Venus in Scorpio, like all planets in Scorpio, isn't the best at talking, but rather is really reflective. It can be better at expressing its affections or its feelings through music or poetry, sometimes even writing it down. So there's a very quiet quality to water signs, which isn't great for articulation and verbalizing, but can be very good for tuning in and getting those subtle messages. So while Venus is in Scorpio, you might be working through the power dynamics between yourself and another person. You might find that you're really kind of feeling compulsive or mildly obsessed about a particular topic or a particular situation. Almost like you've got a craving that you can't satisfy, or you've got this spidey sense that there's something more going on and you're trying to get to the bottom of it. Venus in Scorpio, it is a fixed water sign, so persistence and patience pay off. So keep digging so that you can reveal things that have been obscured while Venus is in Scorpio. Now, Venus in Scorpio is the ruler or the guide of the sun in Libra. So that's going to add an extra layer of intensity and really highlight the importance of having good emotional awareness while the sun is in Libra this year. Now, if you're hearing a little bit about Venus and Scorpio and you're like, I want to hear more about that, check out the past episode number 24 from December 2, 2023, because last year I did a dedicated episode that was all about Venus in Scorpio. That episode will be a great listen if you have this placement or if you want to understand more about it. The final planet to change signs this week will be Mercury, who is leaving its home sign or one of its home signs of Virgo and moving into Libra. So this sign change by Mercury is happening on September 26th. So a few days after Venus and the sun change signs. Mercury won't be as detailed or as practical or as strategic in Libra compared to how it was in Virgo. But Mercury in Libra can really help with communication matters and with relationship topics. So while Mercury was in Virgo, you might have been obsessed with details and schedules and spreadsheets and planning. Mercury in Libra is like, oh, remember the people that you're going to be connecting with or interacting with? Mercury in Libra is like bringing you back into that relational, social space. So after Mercury moves into Libra on September 26, you might find it easier to find common ground with someone or to negotiate a compromise or an agreement that really feels fair for all the people involved. Mercury in Libra might have this more agreeable quality than Mercury in Virgo, and that can generally help with interactions being kinder or more respectful. Of course, you don't want to agree to things that don't work for you. You don't want to agree to things just to keep the peace, but sort of agreeing to find a way forward or a solution that works for everybody. That's kind of what we want to use Mercury in Libra for. We might be debating topics, looking at both sides of a situation. Mercury in Libra loves to explore the either or the either and option. But we're doing that in a really articulate way. You know, Mercury, planet of communication in Libra, a sign ruled by Venus, there is an elegance or a sweetness or things being palatable where language, communication, sharing ideas, and negotiation are concerned. So it's super interesting when we see a few planets changing signs in a relatively short period of time. So to recap this week of the 21st of September, we have the Sun and Venus both changing signs on Sunday, the 22nd. And then a few days later, Mercury will change signs as well. So we've got three of our quick moving planets changing signs within just a few days. And that means that you too might notice that your focus and your areas of interest are shifting a lot this week. So as the Sun, Venus, and Mercury are diving into new topics or exploring different motivations and interests, you too might be kind of shape-shifting as well. And so there's a lot of that rejigging or, moving around pieces and topics and priorities in this, I guess it's technically the fourth week of September. So I'd really encourage you to give yourself some space to make the changes, adjustments, or resets that you need as well. We've got a new season starting with the sun in Libra. We've got 3 planets moving into new signs. So being open to adjusting, changing, not sticking with what you've done, and finding a different pattern or rhythm to move forward. I would love to hear about what is changing, what is shape-shifting, or what is unfolding for you in this week, in this pivotal time between the eclipses and with these planets changing signs. Let me know how this astrology is showing up for you in the comments below. Go gently through this eclipse tunnel period. I'll be back to share more next week. Until then, everyone, take care.